Hello y'all, welcome to another writer's advice. I think it's been a couple months since I did my first one, but I'm about to be really busy and I didn't film much this week, so I'm like, okay, let me just film a writer's advice, quick, sweet, whatever, and I have some things I've been kind of wanting to discuss, especially as I get busier and all of that. So basically today's video is I'm just gonna be kind of talking about maintaining a writing schedule and like any advice I have on it. My personal kind of writer schedule, writing schedule, what? But anyway, so I have some notes here. So if you see me just like staring at the ground, it's because I'm reading my notes. That's basically so I just don't go rambling into infinity about some really obscure thing, and this video ends up being like 40 minutes long. But anyway, let's go ahead and get to it. I would like to say, first of all, writing advice is incredibly subjective. I was very lucky when I first started my draft one that I was hardly busy. I had enough time. I wasn't taking very many hard classes in school, so I had like time during classes where I would just write. Like I would crank out like 1,000 words in like 75-minute classes. So, and I was very lucky for that. I didn't have any after school stuff. So yeah, but that kind of brings us into our first topic, which is the difference between a writing schedule for like a draft one, anything from like 2, 3, 4, 5, on and on, because they're different. Because I think I very much advocate like draft one, do not care, just do it. Like that's my motto for your draft one. You can plan, you can do all that, but I think really when it comes to draft one, you should just go for it. And I mean, in a way, draft zero. I mean, that's kind of what my draft one is. It's really just a draft zero where I got all of my ideas out for the story, kind of developed my characters a little bit more, thought through some more of my arcs. And I mean, if you're a big planner, then draft, it could be more like a draft 2 and all that. But I still think when it comes to your draft 1, I am a big person when it comes to draft 1 to focus on word count. Because I know some people are very like, hey, don't get caught up on word count, whatever. When it comes to draft 1, just that set goal of everything. And one of my biggest advice when it comes to draft 1, and even all your drafts, it spreads across all drafts, is to write every day. And I know that's like seems like a hard thing, but when I say write every day, I mean like write a sentence every day if you like feel like it, or if like you only have time to write a sentence, like it doesn't matter. When I did my draft one, my goal was about 10,000 a month. I think 1 month I failed and I had to cut it down to 5,000 because I was incredibly busy. It was actually last February. I'm still incredibly busy this February, but, so yeah, in February I had to crack it down to 5,000, but then in March I did 15,000, and then April and May I think I did both 20,000, and that was for my draft one. But basically my goal was just 10,000 a month, and I would write, if you write every single day, then your word count is only 300. I can write about 300 in less than 30 minutes. So it's really, I don't know, it seems like, oh my god, writing every day seems so hard and it's gonna take forever, and it may, it just depends on your personal schedule and how you work, but honestly, I think if you just sit down and write every single day, then you will get results and you will be hitting your goals. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't perfect. There were many times at the end of the month where I would have to spend a week just writing 1,000 words to hit my goal, because I'd be behind. But I mean, I think for January and March of my draft one, I was really good with writing like only like 300, 600, and it was not always like that. I'm definitely not like that anymore. That's mostly because of the difference between my draft one and later stages and how I approach the drafts. Another kind of topic before this is still mostly draft one, can slightly be applied to like other drafts. But then I'll get into like more about other drafts. But for draft one and even other drafts, is set deadlines. And they don't have to be incredibly strict. But realistic deadlines that you're like, okay, I can hit that. And it's okay if I don't. Like, I don't know, don't set a deadline like this is do or die. Like, be easy on yourself and be like, hey, it's okay if I mess up, but don't be like, oh, like be a procrastinator, keep setting your deadline back and back and back and back until you never actually do it. Try and like just stick to the deadline. Like, so in February of last year, I couldn't meet my 10,000 deadline. So I'm like, okay, I was busy. It's okay. 5,000. I hit 5,000. Okay, but March you're gonna do 15,000. I was like, okay, I did 15,000. So just like knowing that, hey, I can make it up later on, and I'm going to make it up later on. Just having that discipline, but also like realistic. Don't hold yourself to perfection. It's all about a balance. So when it comes to like later drafts, the approach, or what happened with me is I approached my first draft like, you know what? I don't give a crap. I'm seeing if I can write, period. And I realized by the end, after I wrote an entire draft, like, oh, I can actually write. Let me write good, because, my first draft. And so I think when it comes to drafts further and further, because technically my draft 2 acted a little bit more like a draft 1. So that kind of shows how like these not even rules, I don't want to call them rules because they're not really rules. This kind of advice can be applied to anything and how it varies from situation to situation. But when it comes to like your drafts further on, I wouldn't approach it of really having a set word count goal, but having set things you want to focus on. And I think I'm gonna eventually do an entire another video on this, probably once I finish my draft 3. Is because I kind of did, my draft 1 is what, my draft 2 is how, and now my draft 3 is why. Basically, I'm answering each of those questions as I go through. My draft 1, I was like, okay, what is happening? And I just wrote down what is happening. Draft 2, I cleaned it up. I'm like, okay, how are we getting to each of these steps, and kind of soothed it out. And now I'm going through draft 3 and making sure every single action has a why to it. Okay, why is this character doing this? Why does this happen? And kind of creating that timeline, and really working on those, smoothing out those characters' arcs, and showing the progression of the story and progression of the characters. And so when you approach your draft 2 and further on, it's a lot, I would say, don't focus much on workout, but instead like focus on something you want to change. Like, okay, I need to rewrite a bunch of these chapters and restructure this entire thing. Okay, focus on that for this draft. These character arcs are all over the place, and I can't decipher what's character from this character and that character, that character. Okay, work on that. That is your goal. Like, my prose absolutely sucks. Okay, just focus on that. Focus on making your prose nice. Just have a goal for the later drafts and spend that draft focusing on that. Right now, to make myself accountable that I'm actually writing, I'm just trying to write every single day. My original goal is to have my draft 3 done by my spring break, but I don't know if that's going to happen. And I'm like, okay, I haven't been writing a lot. I've been incredibly busy. I'm juggling a bunch of things. But as long as I continue writing every day, it's okay. So that's just my goal. Okay, quantity versus quality. And this kind of goes into draft 1 versus draft 2. So draft 1, definitely quantity. Like, I know everyone's told you quality over quantity. When it comes to your draft 1, 100% quantity. Just get those words out. It doesn't have to be good, doesn't have to be great, doesn't have to be anything. It can be absolute garbage. But if it's on the paper, it's good. Quality comes later on. And again, this is all incredibly subjective. If you want to produce a good first draft, go right ahead. You can do that. No one's stopping you. Just make sure you are being kind to yourself during this time. Like, don't be hating on yourself if it's awful. And again, like, not everyone can write every day, but just having that regular goal, and it's realistic. That's the word. But anyway, okay, so that's basically my spiel about the difference between like draft 1 and drafts after 2. Kind of advice. Now I want to talk more about my personal writing schedule. So like I said, when I did my draft 1, I wasn't as busy. And even with my draft 2, I wasn't really. I did most of it like over my summer break. But now I can definitely tell like, oh, I'm so much more busy. It's so much harder to find time to write. But I am still just making that goal to write every single day. And I'm going to be talking a little bit more about how to maintain a writing schedule for later drafts. If you want me to make an entire draft just about your first draft and scheduling that, I mean, I've kind of talked a little bit about it in here, but if you do want that, I can tell you. I did talk about my draft 1 in my other writer advice video and kind of how I went through that, I'm pretty sure. I haven't watched it. I don't watch my videos. But anyway, okay. So usually I have a printed out, let me grab it. I have a printed out version of my draft 2. And basically, I don't really think I'm allowed to show you it for possible legality reasons later on. But anyway, I've gone through and I've marked it all up. And basically, so I kind of go in and hand edit at first. I reread the chapter, remember, okay, what's going on? Where is this character at emotionally in their stage? And I go through, I'm like, okay, what things do I need to change? What things do I need to polish? What things do I just need to get rid of? And then that kind of leads in, because I talked earlier about kind of how my draft 3 purpose and my goal for my draft 3 is all about finding the why. So I'm really looking at the emotional state of my characters, where they are in their arcs, and determining, like, okay, so they're supposed to do this in the chapter. Why are they doing it? And then going through and foreshadowing that and like explaining it to the real reader without directly telling them, because it's a lot of show versus tell. Oh, so basically, like I said, I'm a lot busier now. However, I still try and carve out 30 minutes to an hour in my schedule, because usually in that time I can write from like 500 to 1,000 words. So I just try and carve out that small amount of time. Like, okay, I know for this certain time I'm going to write. And I just spend that time writing. As well as kind of in this stage, because I usually get really tired and I'm usually writing like before I go to bed. It's all about discipline over motivation, but not to like a point where it's harmful. Don't be forcing yourself to write when you don't like the story. If you don't like the story, change it. But if you don't like, or if you feel like it's not perfect and you're mad at yourself because it's not perfect, don't completely rewrite the story in a way. Just sit down, figure out, okay, what am I doing wrong? How do I fix it? And that's kind of what I do every time. Like, if I feel like, oh my god, my writing is so bad right now, I read for a bit. I'll kind of sit in my thoughts, like, okay, what am I not liking about what I'm writing? Sometimes I'll reread it, whatever. But still having like, okay, I need to write. I know I don't want to, but let me just, for 30 minutes, let me just write. And 30 minutes turn into an hour and all that. Just setting yourself like a small, biteable size piece and then biting the entire thing and more, basically. And not like trick your mind into thinking, okay, I'm not gonna write for an hour, I'm not gonna write for an hour, and then you write for an hour. Basically just say, like, okay, I'm just gonna sit down for a little bit. If I want to continue, I'll continue. If I don't want to continue, I won't continue. And that's basically it. That's kind of like my personal schedule and my spiel. Again, I like saying that word. But my kind of like how I go about writing and where I am in writing and all of that. Next, I want to talk about kind of motivation. Like, I've given you this advice, whatever, and thank you so much for watching this far, because you're awesome. But now kind of, okay, like, let me hype you up. Let me inspire you. I hope I inspire you. Imagine if I just make you not want to write. My bad. But, okay. So everyone writes at a different pace. Don't be ashamed if you can't write every day. It's okay. It's awesome if you can write every day, but that's not a that's a luxury. Not everyone can have that. A lot of people have full-time jobs. A lot of people are in school, and you're not alone. I think as long as you are, again, trying to set a realistic goal of writing as often as you can, you're awesome. You're doing great. Keep it up. Just understand, like, everyone works at a different pace. Some people speed through a book, and that's great for them. Other people take years and years and years and years. And, you know, it's okay. That's why, like, humans are so cool and beautiful, and all books are so cool and beautiful, because they're all different, mostly. Like, even if you write a sentence once or twice a week, you're still doing awesome. You are still trying to write, and you're still making yourself sit down and write and work on this project and work on this dream, because that's still awesome. You are still doing great. Now, I would say don't get comfortable in that position. Just always be trying to push yourself. That leads to my next thing. Do not push yourself into burnout. If you feel like you are absolutely hating the story, you absolutely are hating writing, take a break. You are allowed to take a break. I schedule, like, writing breaks. Or I schedule, like, breaks. Every Friday, I don't do any homework. I don't work on anything really, except maybe I'll work on some paintings, I'll write, I'll read, I'll catch up on shows, and I just let myself relax. Just let yourself chill every once in a while. And that is a luxury. Not everyone has that. But just try and build in like some of those relaxing times. And especially if you're starting to feel burnout. And it also is, like, be kind to yourself. If your work isn't perfect, that's okay. No one's is. Even after publication, it's still not perfect. But you still put in the work. You did the effort. Hopefully you love the stories. And hopefully, like, it's dear to your heart, and you can see I'm proud of that. And if you're not proud of your work right now, just continue working on it. Unless you actually hate the story, then feel free to scrap it and start over. But I mean, like, my first draft, and even my second draft, really my first draft. My second draft got, like, significantly better. But my first draft absolutely sucked. My second draft was better. But now, like, my third draft, I'm like, oh my god, I'm a good writer. Like, I'm not trying to be vain. I'm not selfish, but, like, I'm proud of myself. Like, I'm proud of the work I've accomplished. I'm proud of the effort I put in. And knowing that, my camera's about to die. But knowing that, I continue working. But yeah. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you got some inspiration advice from this video. I hope to see you again soon. If y'all want more writer's advice, tell me. But yeah, bye y'all.